What about it, YouTube? All right, this goes out to the Debate Me channel because got into a little discussion. It all started about a simple thing he said about our tax dollars having to pay for flights to run to Colombia just to be turned back around and waste precious gas and taxpayer dollars. So I just threw it out there that, the military is going to fly airplanes around, a lot. And, besides going to Colombia and worrying about Colombia, and besides that, that's in their budget. So it's not really a taxpayer thing. And kind of got into it with him about how taxes don't pay for anything. Now, he wants to argue that they do, but they don't. Okay, so you can say they do, but they don't. All right, I'm sorry, they don't. They don't. They absolutely don't. So, everything is borrowed. Quotation marks borrowed. All right? Really, everything's issued because the national debt, whatever trillions, it's nothing but a ledger. There is no obligation to it. No little man behind the curtains coming to get his trillions that he saved up doing his paper route. Okay? That's not what's going on. All right? The United States has credit just because it said so. I know that sounds weird, but just because it said so, it has credit. Now, if you think about it, it's true because the United States has a lot of land mass, and that land mass has resources. And when two things come together, that's human labor and resources, then it creates value or it adds value, right? Because the gold in the ground or the oil in the ground or the concrete, whatever, the steel, the whatever, none of it really matters, or who's going to say there's a value, or why would there be a reason to if it's just going to sit there? So as soon as humans get involved and now they're extracting it, now they're making something out of it, now you've got a car and now you've got all this stuff, right? That's value. And how do we represent that? How do we store that value? How do we make any sense of that value that we know is there? Okay, it's not printing out of nowhere. Okay, it isn't, right? This bull crap that it's worthless because they just print out of nowhere. It isn't nowhere. The United States is a real place. It has real resources and it has real people. And when they come together, real things happen. Okay, it happens every day. So, some people know this. Trump knows this, thank goodness. Hopefully he does something right with it, but we'll see. So, those two things come together, you have value. It's stored in something that they call the dollar. All right, you could call it anything. You could call it the rand or the shekel or whatever you want to call it, okay? But ours is called the dollar. All right, it has a name, great. And then there's numbers, sort of for the accounting, right? You have to have some kind of accounting because there's not much real difference between one that says 1 or 5 or 10 or 100. Not much difference other than we recognize that the numbers, the numerical value on there is a placeholder of value that came from some kind of labor and somewhere some kind of resource that all came together to create that value to be represented in that specie, the dollar bill. Now we can grease the skids of the economy. Now we can easily pay whoever for whatever, okay? Because we do our thing, we get our we get it stored up in this common representation, and they accept that common representation, and that's simply all it needs, okay? Doesn't need to be based on gold. You don't need to make it an idol. You don't need to worship gold and price fix it and have it as some kind of ball and chain where it's like, oh, only gold has value. Resources and people don't. No, just gold. Yeah. So let's go talk to the gold and see how much gold is in here. Oh my gosh, do we have enough to loan out? Oh, damn it, we're out. We're all out of gold. We loaned it all out. Oh man, what are we gonna do? Oh, that's where your fractional reserve scam operation comes into play, because to keep up with credit, right? Credit. even when so the government goes to the government needs money to pay for itself and military and whatever else. And Ukraine and Israel's and everything else, right? It can't pay for your health care. Dang it. It can't pay for infrastructure and light rail, upgrade to our nation. It can't, darn it, golly, it can't help the Asheville people and the LA people, and FEMA's just throwing it over here into, they say another department, and that makes it all just make sense that they're throwing in a department of housing illegals, and we just can't pay for nothing, and we just can't, it's going to take months for permits, and we just don't know, and guess what, we're going to gaslight with smart cities and hogging it up for the lithium, and we're just going to gaslight the shit out of you. But hey, on the good note, we're taking care of Ukraine and Israel with billions, okay? All right? And that's how we just do. And by the way, your grandkids are gonna have to pay the national debt off. That's gonna be a cloud over your head, hon. Oh gosh, we're gonna get you to go around and talk about how it's a zero-sum world of scarcity and what are we gonna do? And we better be preppers. And oh my gosh, and what are we gonna do? It's the second coming. All right. Let me get back to it. So the nation has credit, and so the nation needs money, and it's got to pay for the military, whatever else, and it could be going to great things. It could be going to healthcare. It could be going to Asheville. It could be going to everything that's good. But instead we have Shlomo. All right, we're going to get to that. Shlomo is the one who issues our money and calls it debt. All right, it's just a word game. It's a semantic game so that you accept the usury, so that you get confused with your household debt, like, wait, I had to borrow money and then there was interest and I had to pay it back, and that's how the government works. No, that's not how the government works. They know that, you just don't know that. So they get the money issued to them, call it borrowing. There's no obligation to it. It's nothing but a ledger. It's like asking yourself, how much money did I spend in my lifetime? It means nothing. What is it, $1 million, $1.5 million you spent since you started making money? Who cares? It means nothing. It's gone. Right? Same thing with the government. It's spent it. It's gone. All right? And if it's going to Ukraine and Israel, it's not here. It's not flooding our streets. It's not some M3 like flooding of money on the street. Is it, anybody who's just all of a sudden like helicopters of money are like dropping out on them or not? No, it's not here. And it's not going to anything equitable. It's going to bombs and stuff that just blow up and then it goes to nothing, right? Or it's going to pay some guy who's going around with a gun to shoot people so that he can, send money back to his wife to fill the fridge for the kids. And then they make a turd and they flush it down the toilet. There's no equity there. Okay? So it's not all this government spending that's causing inflation. It's inflated artificial fuel prices and artificial supply chain issues that have caused all of the inflation. And it's a trickle-down effect as soon as you start charging too much for transportation. Getting all over the place. But so you need money. You know what? You magically do almost the same thing. All right, we're going to do the things that relate and compare. The things that compare is the government needs money. It goes and it gets it based on its credit. You need money. You go and you get it based on your credit. Okay? And then based on your credit, okay, this money comes into existence. They don't have to go back here and say, oh man, the dude wants some money for a car. Do we have it? Oh shit, we don't have it. What do we tell them? They don't have to do that. It's not based on some price fixing of a commodity of gold or something stupid. No, it's just you have the credit. The very fact that you were there and you were demanding the credit in real time, you're demanding this issuance of credit in real time, and you have the credit, right? Means it should be there in the economy. The car's just waiting in the lot. The dealer's just waiting there to sign the papers. They're just waiting there to make the deal happen. You want the car, they want to sell it. How are we going to make this thing happen here? You go to the bank, you got your credit, you get the money. It's evidence that money should be in the economy so that the economy grows. Where do you think GDP would even come from if it didn't grow? So it grows because of you having the credit to borrow. Difference is you got to pay the principal and the interest. All right? And we could argue about whether the usury on your car loan is biblical or not. That's for a later date. Let's stick to just the government and the scam of the usury there. So the Federal Reserve comes into play, comes to compete with the Treasury and the gold standard, 1913. Here comes income tax at the same time, okay? And then at first it was just for like really wealthy people, and then it was sold as a temporary thing to help pay for the war. Okay, and it was always voluntary, because to make it compulsory would be completely against the, I guess, the underwriting of the Constitution or something. So they have to do everything in sort of like a shell game scam. But whatever the case, it's a voluntary tax, still is today, a voluntary tax. And so there was no withholding, and there was nothing of that, not until the United States became bankrupt. The reason why is, so the scam started like this. The Fed said, we'll issue you guys the money you need, right? And then we'll charge you interest based on the issuing of that money, because we're going to call it borrowing. It's a scam. In gold out of Fort Knox, all right? And this went on from 1913 up into the roaring 20s, and you hit the late 20s, and you have that debacle. By the early 30s, the United States is out of gold. The United States has no more gold security to pay the Fed for being so nice to issue our credit, to issue our money to us. Totally unnecessary. The Treasury could do it without any interest at all. All right? It's a total scam. It is a complete and utter scam. But they get you thinking it's necessary in these private. Everybody talks about, oh, it's not federal and it has no reserves. Yeah, okay. It's a scam. It always was. So they run out of money. They confiscate everybody's gold in 1933, I think it was, and then now the Rothschilds control our nation's gold and the gold of the world, and set the gold price in London every day. To this day, right now, that's a scam. Whatever. But what's a guy to do when he sits on a mountain of gold and he owns basically the world reserves of gold? What's he going to do? Well, he leases it back out. So all the gold that you gold bugs think is yours, whatever it is, I don't care if you have it in your house or where you have it, all that gold has been leased back out in Rothschild terms. So if they took it when it wasn't theirs in 1933, do you think they could maybe ever take it when they say it's theirs now? I'm just something to chew on. But what was the United States going to do? Because it was essentially bankrupt of the deal. Like, they use the word bankrupt, but they had to do something with the Fed to continue the issuance game, right? So they said, look, we'll start doing withholding of people's money from their employers for income tax. So, and then FDR sold that as, oh, but we're going to get the nation back on track, and after the Great Depression that was engineered by the Fed, we need money for works projects. Again, getting you to think that you need to pay this income tax now to have works projects so that people can go to work and not be unemployed and everybody turns into a bum. That's not what happens. And that's not what happened then. They borrow the money. They get the money issued to them for the works projects. Your taxes are nothing but a replacement of that gold that was being used and depleted for the usury for 20 years or whatever it was. And then now you, as a chattel slave, now a portion of your productivity, now part of the resources and your time and the labor, right? Now that is not controlled and owned by you anymore. It's owned by someone else. And whether it's 1%, half a percent, or 100%, they have they're throttling you. They're throttling your productivity. They're throttling your ability to thrive and to excel. They're throttling it by saying that you owe some kind of penance or some kind of tribute to them. It's a total scam, 100%. And when Trump, the reason I say Trump has it figured out, Trump said something one time about how I loves borrowing at 0%, and he was. And if he was being totally honest, he should have said, by the way, there's no income tax this year because we've been borrowing at 0%. Why would they need the usury if we're borrowing at 0%? Okay? But he says, I even like better negative percent borrowing. Now, I would almost argue, I like borrowing from the Federal Reserve if they're going to pay us to borrow the money, right? That's going to probably just kind of do a circle and go right back to Israel, unless we change some other things. But you see what I mean? That's what I want you to get through your head. Somehow, some way, I want you to get it through your head that the nation has endless credit. The reason why is it has for all intents and purposes, endless resources and endless labor, as long as they don't kill us all off with a vaccine or something, right? So instead of all boats could rise. It's not a zero-sum chicken little scarcity world out there. All boats could rise, but they have people in this mental spell and they have mental damage from all these years of thinking that way and listening to these pundits talk about, oh, your taxes are going up to pay for this, or the national debt and our grandkids and the rest of it. Please, I pray. And I want to do another video because I was thinking about the 86,000 new IRS people that Trump's saying he might send to the border or whatever. But just using that number, like how many thousands of IRS people work at the IRS? So I'd like to find that out. I was going to maybe find that out and do a video. We'll see. But think about 86,000 people. And let's just say you pay $8,600 a year in taxes. That means that you are paying each one of them 10 cents. Now, what did they make a year? All right, if you paid about 86, you make probably about 40. What, are they making 40? So for them to make 40, I did the math, and it would take 400,000 people to pay the salaries. You want to talk about, again, but instead of something like rising all boats, what are those 86,000 people going to do? Come try to get one more penny out of you for their paycheck? You know what I'm saying? To supply, you know what I mean? Like, I'll do a video probably. So this one's over. I hope, debate me, bro. I hope you don't get caught up in the okey-doke. All right, brother. God bless.